Okay.
Why?
Well, Victoria came up with this. This was on her porch. Do you think this could be from my stalker? Not to make it about me, but
This feels like it's about me.
Why? First of all, the feet are just so elevated.
they are elevated, and they also have painted toenails. And
What?
I don't know, man.
For the people who are only listening, Jade is currently holding up a baby doll with drawn on, like it looks satanic. So it's got like drawn on eyeliner, a heart on its chest with an arrow going through it, painted black toenails and fingernails, a drawn on hair.
Earrings. Earrings and drawn on hair. But here's the thing.
It's an emo baby.
Yeah, it's an emo baby. It kind of looks like you. It's got a nose ring.
That's my baby. Give me back my baby.
This baby smells like it belongs.
Stop smelling its butt.
It smells like it's been in a house. This is an owned baby. Like this is not like a dump.
Stop smelling it.
No, this is not like a dumpster baby.
Stop
like,
smelling.
I feel like
no, that's a dumpster baby. That baby belongs in the dumpster right now.
No, but here's the thing. I know, here's what I know. I know that my stalker probably knows when we film, and he probably put this on Victoria's porch because he didn't want to risk putting it on mine because I'm home. Not to make Victoria's stalker about me. This is not a podcast on narcissism, but I do think this baby was intended for me.
But we've literally never kept a schedule.
Yeah, but he really is. He's in tune.
I cannot handle that. I hate it so much.
Or maybe it's just because we've gotten so into like witchy shit.
Is there anything? Is there anything inside of it? Did you?
I'm listening. Let me listen. I know you're not supposed to I don't want you to feel shame.
Don't shake the baby.
This is like the harm OCD's like worst nightmare. I hate that I'm doing this to you. If Toy Story is real, like my inner 8-year-old right now is not okay with what's happening.
Yeah, that's sleeping outside.
Yeah. For our audio listeners, I just took the head off. There's nothing inside. There's no maps of our neighborhood. I am going to take off the diaper.
Okay. Oh my God.
No, there's nothing in the diaper. But yeah, anyway, this is just like this is the cross-eyed bear.
This is one of the perks
in this world.
Yes. Yeah. One of the perks of nothing. Oh my God. Wow. So basically, we're going to start off this podcast on such a wild note that we're just going to completely ignore the fact that you're wearing a hat made out of mirrors. It says boy.
Yeah. I don't know what this hat is. I bought it from a boutique in Brooklyn.
Right.
In the same place that I got my mirror spider hat.
This is your gender reveal party right now. We're having it.
It is. But I am a girl. I identify as a girl. I love the D.
A woman.
I am a woman. I am. Does that feel weird for you to say? Like
not anymore, no.
Yeah, I think it took me until I was 28 years old where I'm like, I am no longer a girl. I am a woman.
On that note, welcome to Impractical Magic, a comedy podcast where you get emo babies left on your doorstep. We talk about dating, creativity, and how we're both maybe too self-aware for our own goods, but we're working on it. I'm Christiana Benton.
And I'm Nicole Kidman.
Oh, Nicole. Wow.
I know. I'm not a waif of a woman anymore.
Today, we are talking about a follow-up from our last episode, Grabbing the Universe by the Nads, which many of you listened to and sent messages or commented, and thank you very much for that. we appreciate it. We're words of affirmation kind of girls, and we need that exterior validation to keep thriving, to keep going. Which is ironic because it's the opposite of what we're talking about today, which is the role of self-love and self-respect in the process of trying to pursue your dreams and manifest your best, which is what Jade has been doing for the last 30 days, and we're going to see where she's at now.
Yeah, also, two things. I want to talk about how I thought the universe would have had bigger nads, and I'm always disappointed in the size of the nads.
Are you really, though? Like, in real life with a real person, would you be like, those balls aren't big enough?
If men were talking about female anatomy on a podcast, I would be pissed. So I'm just going to shut this down.
Well, I was going to say that's why I find so much solace in the art realm, because it's like Picasso is very famous for a lack of symmetry, and my body comes with those features as well. So I'm all about it.
I love every single guy I've dated. I love them for who they were, and I loved their balls for who they were. Now, I do want to talk about the metaphysical shamanic healer I saw that helped me get rid of a curse my great grandfather's 7 generations removed. So
what?
I do.
Did you just speak in tongues?
No, I did write this into the outline, but I kind of snuck it in because of your pragmatism.
You just said menishaminiminimic.
It's like the monkey on the Lion King.
Oh my god!
But it is like and honestly, who knows better than Rafiki how to exist in this crazy world?
Was Rafiki maybe a Reiki healer?
I think so.
What was Rafiki?
That's how Reiki got its name.
Rafiki. They shortened it.
Well, I got my spiritual alignment, and I got some curses broken off of me, and so I'll definitely be talking about that.
How much does a spiritual curse breakage run financially?
Well, it depends on who you see, and it depends on how much you tip. And I'm generous.
But you have to tip them when it's like their business and you show up at their house?
I choose to tip because I would prefer tips.
Does the tip help the demon stay away for longer?
Well, evidently not.
Okay.
Ask for a refund.
Yeah, you should get a refund on that last shamanic healing that you got.
Yeah.
Since there was a baby doll with eyeliner on it.
I've been trying to purge myself of my demons ever since someone told me I have bad energy.
Oh. Isn't bad energy relative?
Honestly, you want to get into it. The whole idea within that sort of spirituality, which I'm not saying I subscribe to it. Like, I can joke up here about it, but like I have a tendency where like we process information really similarly, but we're different in this way. Mm-hmm. I like to dive hard and fast, take a collective overview of the sitch, and then say, I'm out of here. You assess that, like you sniff them like I did that baby, and you say, oh, I don't know that I want to participate. And that might be a great way to go about it. Maybe it's the 5. Maybe it's the 5 wings. But for me, I'm like, let's get it out of the way. That's how I shop at Target. I go in and I take an assessment, and then I go pick what I want, buy it, take it home. If I hate it, I'll bring it back.
Sure.
But I really am an impatient woman. I like to cut to the chase. So, all that to say, in the metaphysical, in the energy world, as far as I understand it, you probably get like corrected. I welcome it. There's not duality. So the whole idea is that there is only energy, and it all comes from source. So, like, every single person has a ton of positive and a ton of negative energy, and situations have positive and negative energy, and separating out that duality is not as important because people look at all situations who like subscribe to that belief. They look at situations and they say like, what did the universe have me learning through that? Mm-hmm. And we'll get into this when we talk about like the manifestation thing. I feel like for some people, especially as we like emerge into a culture that really values like psychology, well, I have like a strong belief that the psychology world is really like the new Christianity, but there's this whole concept of health and unhealth. And some people argue that like for a structured healing system, there has to be duality. There has to be right and wrong. I think it could go either way in the
Oh.
more Eastern world, where somebody like, let's say, that struggles with like poor boundaries and codependency could get into it and go downhill, I feel like, really quickly without boundaries, or maybe they would expand and as a byproduct create boundaries, which is kind of what's happened to me in the past month, of realizing, kind of going back to where I started from, which we'll get into.
Yeah. Is there just like a bird? I can get it out. Yeah, so the thing is, I feel like it's actually fun to delve into some of this stuff as an adult. Like, it's fun, it's exciting, it gives you like a glimmer of hope in a dark world, and it's like gives you a perspective of more potential and what can I do, and an exercise of power. I think the fact that I grew up in it and it wasn't my choice to engage in it is sort of where it got dark, because I had no ability to, like, as an adult now I can read a book on manifestation and pick out which parts serve me and which parts don't, right? But as a kid, you're just like, I don't know, I'm being told this thing, and you don't have that sort of autonomy. So, that experience of being in not one but two cults before the age of 20 years old, like, which I'm sure we'll do an episode on cults because we have to. Maybe the next one, I don't know, we'll see. Because I would love to out some motherfuckers, like, big time. I want to name some names. I'm ready. After I saw that, what was it? What was that cult documentary you and I were talking about? NXIVM? Is it NXIVM?
Dude, I am so attracted to Keith Raniere. Oh my god, it's my whole body just I understand why he is. He's a monster, and I'm just like,
we need to like
hot.
we need to get like 12 sticks of sage and smudge this out of
Like,
you.
when I saw the NXIVM documentary and I saw Keith Raniere, I was like, I would fall for this motherfucker and I would marry the shit out of him.
And here's how I know that I've come to a much healthier place in my life, is that I'm just like, who is this smug philosophy professor looking idiot? Like, get out of here with that. But I do get
that cerebral narcissist charm.
I think if I didn't know who he was and I was having a conversation at a coffee shop with him, I probably would fall for some shit. But knowing who he is and what he did, anyway, we'll save it for the next episode. But that being said, that I think is why I try on before I buy. So there's energy healers, there's Reiki healers, there's shamanic, shamalama ding dongs. There's Kundalini. I don't know what Cunnilingus. What do they all do? That aligns me. That lines up my chakras.
That lines up. Woo. Okay.
Yeah. So what do these guys do? How much do they charge? And how can
it depends on what you tip.
Okay,
yeah. I pay like $150, but
you told me it was $100. You tip $50?
Yeah.
Jade,
my mom was a hairstylist, and tips kept food in the fridge. So
no, but that's 50%.
I know. I just believe in it so much.
Okay.
And 2020 brought on a lot of weird stuff that I couldn't seem to shake. And at the time, I was going to like a normal, like, trauma specialist, and that became kind of this like null and void endeavor. And I always, just because of my experience in the church, am like very apprehensive. Like I joke about diving in, but I've been apprehensive. But the thing that really opened me up to the concept of like kind of the woo woo healing was I was suffering from really bad insomnia last year, and a reoccurring dream that like had to do with childhood,
Mhm.
and it just kept getting louder and louder and louder. And I've always been a dreamer. And it's so funny because you say, when you were talking earlier about how you were like, well, because I was raised in it. I think it's funny because it's like you weren't raised in the new age, but like that overlap of like
It's the same shit.
Christianity. It's the same shit. It's all just like fucking witchcraft. Like
It just
it's
has
all the same.
It has a Jesus stamp on it, but it's literally this. It's
literally the same thing. That's why. Okay, so I want to be clear in all this that this is experimental, and I just wanted to see. So I was like, I'm gonna open myself up to this. Like first with Reiki, and I found somebody that I really trusted, and I started going last year. And the feedback that my Reiki specialist was giving me after every session was like really helping me mentally and emotionally. And like I was realizing too, like I really just need physical touch. Like she does deep tissue massage and Reiki and cupping, and it's like in a pandemic, like as a single person who never sees people, like I really just need to be touched. Because I would go to her, and she sort of helped me like work through some of the things that I was trying to process that I couldn't put words on. Like I was experiencing things that I couldn't put words on through traditional counseling that energy healers were able to put words on. They're like, oh yeah, it's this and this, this and this. So this dream is about a specific place in, well, I'm from Oklahoma City, and it was about a specific place in Oklahoma City that I had never been. So it'd be the equivalent of like, you know how Nashville has different pockets? Like it would be the equivalent of somebody in like who grew up in Donaldson and maybe has never seen like, maybe they've never seen Green Hills. Maybe by some weird stretch, they just haven't ever ventured over there. Having dreams about Green Hills to the point where they know the city streets. Yeah. And I would constantly dream it. And I kept thinking like I've always said Oklahoma City feels like living in someone else's nostalgia. And I would wake up from these dreams and I would think, is this my memory? Because it doesn't feel like my memory. And it just kept getting louder and louder. And then fast forward like a year of all this like weird synchronistic stuff, like tying in my home and like healing my childhood and all these things, like I end up going to Oklahoma City and visiting a friend there. And this friend has moved since I've left, and I had no idea where they lived. And when I get off the exit, I literally am in the place where I have dreamed, and I know how to get around. Weird. And it's like, I've never been here before. And this person had gone to the Oklahoma City School of Metaphysics, and it had really changed his whole life. And I'm like, I'm not going to drink the Kool-Aid on this, but like when I was telling him about just some of the weird synchronistic things that happened last year, things I was having trouble processing, dreams I was having, he was like, there's actually like a person that I would like to connect you with while you're in town. If she has availability, go see her. I go, and it's like I meet the other half of my story. Like she has all of these words to describe exactly like it's just eerily accurate. And she does energy work, and she like studies ancient texts, and she's like, I don't know, like I feel very safe with her, which I know it's just like, this is a bundle of red flags.
I mean, you are turned on by Keith Raniere, but
I know. But the thing is like, it's one of those things where it sounds so absurd, but it's the only thing that's helped. And to the point where I can't deny that it's helped me. So it's a weird thing where it's like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm doing it, and it seems to be helping my heart heal from different things. And it's not like I'm necessarily like subscribing to the like beliefs, because she doesn't really talk about her beliefs. We just like move energy around and, you know, I don't know, like process emotions. And so all that to say, yeah, like it's been a crazy year, and now I'm a witch.
Well, so
No.
I don't actually know this, but like what's the difference between like a session with a Reiki healer and a session with somebody like that? Like what do you do at them?
Um, well, I guess we can give this person a name because I'm not going to say their name out. Like, but we'll just call her Barbara. Okay, so
Okay,
like
Barbara the
Barbara,
shaman.
Barbara the shaman, Barbara the shaman. It's so with a Reiki healer, it's body work. Like they will run their
Okay.
hands like down like the meridians of your body, and I'm butchering
Okay.
this, but they'll hover like over each chakra, and they align the energy somehow. I don't know
Okay.
if you know about Reiki healing, drop it in the comments. But essentially, it's not too far off. I think it would be the same idea as like if a deacon and a pastor, like they both just walk around with their big dick energy, pretending to be spiritual giants. Um, so it's
Yeah.
kind of like Reiki is the more somatic end, but then this person uses a pendulum, not like they do in witchcraft. It's not the same thing. It reads the energy and talks about like how to heal your higher self and like yeah.
It's more
As it's coming
philosophical.
out of my mouth, it's sounding more suspect than it actually is. There's a level of like, it's so bizarre because you get into it and you're like, no, this isn't as far fetched as it seems. Like, you know?
I think you're just like reading my face, even though I'm not really making a face and like second guessing yourself, but like it's fine. I mean, I said this to you when you messaged me the other night after you had a session with Barbara. It's like if it helps you, it helps you. I feel this way about like stuff like tarot cards, which I might get ripped for this, but like I really think that in my pragmatism, it's not that pragmatic. It's I mean, I think they'd admit it too. If you were somebody who read tarot, it's very much like a Rorschach. Like you
Yeah.
see what you want to see and what you need to see, and the cards just kind of help you get there. I don't think that they're actually dictating your future or reading your past, but I think that like, if Barbara says something to you that resonates with you on like a deep visceral level, there's something about that you needed. So I'm
Yeah.
not here to
Well,
shame
I
you.
think there's some thing, even if it was just this, even if it's just paying for a new paradigm. I sometimes you just got to put new words on it to get
Mm,
breakthrough. It's like look at it from a different perspective, and I feel like I'm healthy enough and wise enough to be like I can take this, and I can take
mm,
this, and I can take this, and I can take this, and this serves me. This doesn't. This doesn't. I am literally just trying to gain traction,
mm-hmm.
and all I know is this person is the first person, and I think it's because the duality thing. This person is the only person I've ever sat in a chair with, like in a therapy setting, where I did not feel shame, where I could say anything that I was experiencing and I wouldn't be shamed for it, whether I'm like unloading rage or just like admitting that I'm heartbroken or like admitting that like I feel crazy. She's the first person that's ever affirmed to me that I'm not crazy, and I believed her. And maybe it's because I went to somebody crazier than me to affirm me. But like the reality is, like, she was the first person to ever like say, "Oh no, I know exactly what's happening. I know why you're having these dreams. This adds up. This means this, and this means this, and this is expected, and these are the symptoms of this." And it's like, okay, like I'm gonna like if this is an avenue where I can stand on my own 2 feet and like believe in myself, I'm gonna take it just because it's been empowering and it's the first time I've felt that way.
It kind of makes sense that if you feel like an impulse to shrink yourself, that going to a place that is so metaphysical and is so wide casts such a well, maybe clearly specific net, but like um speaks so much about the unseen elements of things would feel like a justification of your intuition because that's what you're going based off of, um I'm skeptical of stuff like that because I think that people can, like you said, parade around with big dick energy and like pretend to have a job that they're not qualified for. And I've seen it my whole my whole life. I'm doing it right now. But I you know, I also think that in retrospect, even in my experiences that were traumatic, there were things that grew me. And but I will say that the more that I come to a place where I don't live in duality in black and white, like the healthier I feel, the more integrated I've become, and the more stable I am. So, whatever floats your boat. But the Reiki healing sounds dope. Sounds like a spiritual massage, and I'm all about it. Because I mean, even if I am skeptical compared to you, maybe I seem pragmatic compared to you, but to a lot of other people, I'm woo woo. It's all just a gradient. And I absolutely, especially as a singer and musician, believe in frequencies and in the way that they affect us and draw us to each other or push us away from each other and have like a weird magnetic push pull element to them. And that actually ties into like what we're talking about, which is like self-respect and self-love, and how at the end of the day you can want to manifest all the things in the world, but the only way you're going to draw to yourself the things that will actually serve you is by cultivating an interior life and a sense of self. Being able to do that from a place of abundance and knowing what you want, and you know whether you get those things or not, your life is not dependent on them. So
yeah. Every single thing I want boils down to either an unmet need or a desire can break down into something that you don't necessarily um, like think that it is. Like, okay, well, why do you want like absurd amounts of money? What will that get you? Like,
right.
what do you want, to lose 50 pounds? Like, what will that afford you? What I realize at the end of the day is I want everything that I have.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing I would really change other than maybe a little bit more space in my apartment. Like a second room. It's like what I found was that I really just need like a little more square footage in a bathtub. And I really would like to be loved by
Mm-hmm.
someone else who could meet me with like reciprocal excitement in a relationship, and like I don't know, like we could meet each other's relational needs in a healthy way.
Yeah, it's funny because I didn't write this down beforehand, so it's kind of off the cuff, but like we joked in the last episode about you trying to manifest for me, and I had this like crazy encounter with somebody who I'd known for a long time. And what's so weird about it in retrospect, when we're talking about like what figuring out what we deserve, and in manifesting, or in just like having dreams, because I also like I think I had kind of gotten to a place where I was like, and maybe this was healthy, but I've always been a hopeless romantic, and I'd always dreamed about like this one magical person my whole life. And then I just got ripped to shreds enough times that I started to let that notion go, and was just like, well, because I don't think there's one person for everybody, but I did let go of the idea that I um was just going to have some meet cute. And so I started, dating online, and just kind of whatever, didn't really even have the time. I hate the same way you feel about like going to therapy and talking about yourself all over again. That's how I feel about dating. I'm just like, I have so many guy friends. Like, do we really have to like collect more? Like, I don't want any more. I do not want any more guy friends. I'm over it. So yeah, a guy friend of mine, and I had this like kind of crazy like romantic encounter out of nowhere that I did not see coming. And it was so interesting because even though it was very short lived, and I still think the world of him, and vice versa, like we don't live in the same place. So um it's so weird how something can open you up and like teach you what you deserve, and then also like magnify how you deserve even better than that thing. And so like it opened up my heart in this very weird way that I wasn't expecting. And I feel like I have been more susceptible to magic and to like really believing in what I deserve, at least in a romantic sense, like since walking away from that. Like it was just like this blip that like was so like um saturated that like walking away from it made me go like, oh, I'll never settle for something that doesn't feel disconnective. Like I can't. Like I know too much now. It's just odd how just like the concept of believing that you deserve something, that alone, that in and of itself will like completely shift how you live out your life. Like admitting what you want, like will fuck you up.
Yeah. Well, it's so wild because um we approach the world identically but almost like inside out. And like
Mhm.
we talked a lot, like I don't date a lot, and I don't date like in the way of like I don't put myself out there on dating apps and things like that because of that reason. So like I would qualify that type of situation as like a supernova. But the problem with supernovas is like, if I'm understanding correctly, they're stars that burn out, like they burn bright and fast. And
Mm.
I feel like all my relationships have been supernovas because I wait for the anomaly. And like we both have like different opinions and ideas about like how healthy or good that is. Cause I think by default, for me, I don't want to sift through a lot of guys that are maybes. I want to go with my gut for something really big. But the problem is inevitably that person gets put on a pedestal because they feel different, and that has a multitude of issues just in and of
Mm.
itself. And that experience happened to me last year. I met someone who was literally to the point, like he was so perfect, he was everything I've ever wanted ever in a partner. And I was so crushed like by the experience because it didn't work out, and it didn't work out for what I tried to convince myself were like under even understandable reasons. Like we never spoke again, he basically just disappeared. And I like the thing is like, though, in that something can be 100% like looks good on paper but be like harmful to you in general. Like it's so interesting to me, we've talked about this a lot, like how sometimes no closure like is the closure you need because it demonstrates like the communication abilities of the other person.
Mm.
And like I could never be with somebody who wasn't a super like intentional communicator. Like
Mhm.
I could never be with somebody who wasn't empathetic enough to be like even just like give me the space and closure I need, or I don't know, just like talk through things with me. And I could never do that. I mean, even with the guy that ended up stalking me, I had like several closure conversations with him because it's just how
Mhm.
I'm wired.
Yeah.
And as an anxious attachment style, it's like it's no one's responsibility to steward that for us, but like just as a general respect, like I
Mhm.
I don't understand that choice, but we're also not wired the same. I'm learning not everybody's wired like me. So it's an act to have grace in those ways. But all this to say, like something can be a supernova and be like not good for you, like really not good for you. And if you don't know what you deserve, I think you end up settling even if you feel like you're not. And as dumb as it sounds, the other day I was driving around listening to Coldplay's Fix You.
Mm.
And he says, if you never, when you're too in love to let it go, if you never try, then you never know what you're worth. It's like,
Mhm.
that's exactly what that is. Like, you have to let go of something, even if it's the biggest thing you've ever felt.
Yeah, it's hard to know what's what. It's hard to know if really, really just care about somebody and see them for who they are and they see you for who you are, or if you're just smitten with a cult leader. You know what I mean?
It
Like,
is. I think I could be really like, I'm very trickable, and I have fallen in love with very charismatic people. So, like, a trick of light. Um,
mhm.
it's the weirdest thing because I think 2 or 3 times I've dated people where it's like, you're evil, you're either the most evil person I've ever met
Yeah.
or you're the most profound, and it's one of the 2. Like, you're
Mhm.
either spiritually enlightened and you're the most brilliant person I've ever met, or you are, like, the meanest. And, you know, I just need a big soft love.
Yeah, I
Like,
think at the end of the day, like it doesn't really matter which one it is, because either way you're elevating them above yourself. And how can you ever
Mm,
be in a healthy relationship dynamic with someone who you deem more significant than yourself or wiser or whatever? It's like we all want to be with people that we admire, of course, but we want to admire traits in them that you want them to admire traits in you. And really, it's like it still all comes back to self-respect,
mm-hmm.
because for me to healthily be with somebody who I admire, I have to be living a life that I admire, and I have to be willing to like look in the mirror and say like I admire you. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean? So, I think we on some level I think we do accept the love we think we deserve. And so we can get lucky
100%.
sometimes with people where we're like, I don't think I deserve this. Even if you do, you just don't think that you do, and sabotage it because you don't think that you do. And so until you heal that part of yourself, not that you need fixing, but there are wounds. We all have them. Until you like nurture lovingly that part of yourself, like I don't think that we can engage in a balanced way if we start to elevate people above ourselves, whether it's in a romantic relationship or in a mentor relationship, or like we can't, even people who we deem teachers, I just don't think that it's healthy for us to put them on pedestals. Learn from people, but don't expect them to have the answers or write your story for you, you know?
Which is such an interesting juxtaposition, and what I kind of like about the more like Eastern philosophies and religions, because in the Christian faith, there is this whole concept of like men being the leaders.
Hmm.
And I think you do. I mean, I didn't even grow up in it, but like if there's any thread of codependency in you, like looking at men like they have the potential to like be the leader of your home can get so fucked, like so
Yeah.
quick.
Yeah, and there's like this level of pandering that I was thinking about the other day that happens to us when we start to do that. Like, I mean, I like a guy with leadership qualities. I'm an assertive woman on a lot of levels, but I like to find somebody else who has a softness to them, but isn't gonna like trail behind me. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I want to be like partners. I don't want to be like in charge, but I don't want to. I'm also not submissive. So like sometimes. But like there's this thing that I've seen where it's almost like uh what's the term? Virtue signaling, where like I feel like women feel like they need to like I guess it happens usually when you're younger, but it's like, look, if I cook a meal and you see a photo of it on Instagram, you better fucking believe that that's just how I cook for myself. I'm not trying to get anybody to wife me up, you know? Like I think
Ugh.
I think that we yeah, exactly.
That grosses me out so hard. Ugh. No.
Like I'm not here to like sell myself. The fact that like we have been sold that men are somehow the trophies for our existence is such nonsense. I was talking to my friend about this the other day. It's like, yeah, cool. I get to clean your fucking pubes off the floor for the rest of my life. Awesome. Can't wait. Like men do great stuff and I love them a lot, too much. But like it's not like some grand reward to have a husband. If you want a partner, like, which is totally healthy and cool, I couldn't admit that for a long time either. I thought that made me weak.
Mm.
Um, all of the shit that you want somebody else to do for you to like make you feel special, just do it for yourself. Buy yourself flowers, cook yourself a beautiful breakfast, eat it slowly and savor it. Like, look yourself in the mirror and tell yourself you look so pretty today, because it's not in any way going to take away from when somebody actually does it. I think I didn't do that stuff for a long time because I was afraid that like when it happened to me, it wouldn't feel as special. It feels more special because it's just icing on the cake now. You don't need it to survive. You're not going to like latch onto it and then be afraid it's going to go away. You're just like, "Oh, thank you so much. That's so nice of you." Like, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
spoil yourself. Like half of the time this shit we call self-care and spoiling is like basic human like needs. and we're like, oh, this mom took a bath with a bath bomb for the first time in 2 weeks. Like, self-care. It's like, yeah, because your girl needs a bath and like 10 minutes to herself. Like, that's not crazy. Like, my first few months of therapy were me like learning how to prioritize myself and set boundaries, and me just like having my therapist over and over say like, this isn't bad, this is okay, this is good for you, until I could finally see the benefit of it. And I have this book that I read every morning that my good friend Bruce Roberts gave me, and he he just gave it to me like a couple years ago, and I didn't read it till recently, and it's a daily like devotional kind of. One of the things that they said in a recent passage was that when it comes to like prioritizing yourself and self-care, people get it wrong. They tell themselves that it's like this culture of me first, and that it's like the younger generation spoiled. It's all me first. And it's like, no, it's really like me too. Like, and I'm not referring to the Me Too movement. I'm talking about like, no, I get to hold space as well. Like, if like I'm not going to give anybody in my life more space than I give myself. And that's what I'm working on, you know, is just like not shrinking, which is so hard to do. Like, I get around somebody I'm attracted to, or I get around somebody who's arrogant, or I get around somebody who I grew up around, and I start shrinking, and I'm just like so fucking over it. Like, I want to like hold my own so well that like no matter what the context and no matter who I'm with, and even like no matter what my hormones are like that day, like I am just like sticking it. Like, I am sticking the landing. This is who I am. I am at ease in my body and with my self. And I think when you're in that place, which is like totally a learning process, like the right things find you.
I think we talked about this a little bit in the like maybe the last podcast, maybe it was a few back, but I was like, no, like I really just like want the traits that I see in myself. And I think that actually I've been projecting my own magic, and I've been projecting my own creativity and my own boldness onto men because I have felt like it is somehow inaccessible to me. And even in the past year, like with this podcast, opening up my voice, like writing poetry online, stepping into the freelance world, I realized like as I step into my fullness, like I need different things in a partner. I really for a long time, and even this showed up in a lot of the guys that I dated, thought that I needed somebody who kind of like led me. And then last year my friend Meg said, I said something like, well, I'm not a leader, I'm kind of more of a helper role. And she said, what?
Yeah, that's
of
bananas.
course you're a leader. And then I was like, yeah, I am. I don't need some guy to like lead me around by the nose. And I actually think any guy that did would be in a lot of trouble.
We talked about this week, but I really do theorize that the people that we feel the most intense chemistry with are usually people who have traits that we feel like a huge deficit of.
I think
like,
they can be part of it too.
Within ourselves. So it's like being like we talked about, being attracted to angry men, or like really like just straightforward, blunt, like I say it, I don't apologize for it. And then just realizing like, oh, I'm like viscerally attracted to this man because he holds keys to something that I want to hold that I don't have yet, which is like being able to stand up for myself.
Yeah, and let me tell you, arguing with that man, that type of man, is actually impossible. That's the man who ghosts you. That's the man who doesn't have to apologize to anybody. That's the man who doesn't respect you. So it's really interesting because it's like I do feel so viscerally attracted to that, and then it's like I do think that it's because I've never been allowed to just get mad. And as you come into like integration and balance out, I do think that you'll draw partners that are also more balanced. Because I am not argumentative at all, and I hate confrontation. I used to have such a terrible temper when I was younger, and I worked so hard on it that I like in a fight, I'm not going to flip out. Like I just will not give someone that. But if I walk away not feeling heard, I basically never recover because words are like the way they're they're the way I alchemize everything. Like I'm a writer, I'm a poet, they're the way I exist in the world. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like I need someone who can meet me in that balance.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. I do think like that's where it comes back to is like if you want to manifest a bunch of shit to yourself, if you have a list of things that you want, which I think is so incredibly brave, and like you're admitting what you want. So many people don't, and so many people are really genuinely directionless. And when you, it's always this when people like have no idea where they're going or what they're doing or what they want, and you ask them what they want, they always say, I don't know. And that is always the reason why they're in turmoil because they don't know what they want, so they don't have something they're walking towards. But for the healing process, I think sometimes we do draw like interactions to ourselves until something sticks. And
I think so too.
not that like
Oh,
not to victim blame because that's not where we're going, but like if you need to, if you always have an opportunity to like either learn from the situation or to be bowled over by it, and sometimes it's a mix of both. And I think that sometimes there is a lot of grief involved with finally admitting what you want because when you start going for it you realize how much time you spent not in it. And you might get it and then it might slip out of your fingers and you grieve that too, but it's all part of the process. So
well, I think too, if it slips out of your fingers, then it wasn't what you wanted because I think at the end of the day, what we want is someone that stays. I mean,
yeah.
that is someone that is willing to put in the work. At least that's what I want. I know some people have different values, but like on that note, it's such a hard thing because one of the concepts in manifestation that really fucked me up a little, and Christiana had to talk me down from quite a few cliffs in the past month on this because it really does get into like if you're not careful it can get into spiritual bypassing and gaslighting.
Mm-hmm.
Was this concept in the law of belief and law of attraction communities of like everybody is you pushed out, and there are two primary or like everyone is a mirror of you, and there are two like primary extremes of this belief. One is that like you are God, you are the operant power. So like if I am the operant power, we're going to say this is the right end of the belief. If I'm the operant power, then in my universe Christiana is just a figment of my imagination, and I manifest all of her behaviors and her feelings about me through affirmation. So basically everybody is like my robot.
Rude.
The other end of it, everybody is you pushed out, is the idea that like Christiana is a sentient being and I am a sentient being, but we are still the operant. Like I'm the operant power in my reality, she is the operant power in hers. And so we have a co-creation happening, meaning that we influence each other, but then also like, let's say we got into an argument and she said, "You're an evil person." Then it's not that because she's saying it makes me evil, it's that I walk away believing it. The world is your mirror insofar as interactions.
Everything is a mirror because like how you react to the thing you're encountering is reflects who you are. So it's like if
And
I
what
can
you believe about yourself.
what you believe about yourself. So if I said to you you're an evil person and you just laughed, it's because you don't take it seriously. Like you don't actually believe that. But if you took it and then you went home and you cried and mulled over it, it's because there's something about you believes that you are evil or whatever it is that I accused you of. Or like the things that we see in other people that bother us do tend to be things that exist in ourselves, or they're things that it's a reflection of what we hold in high esteem, and what matters to us. So everything is a mirror in the sense that it magnifies back to you what matters to you and what your values are. And that is the same for the things that you want and the things that you dream about.
It's like a faith building process of any kind where like you see it enough and it works for you. I think for me, it's just come down to like how much mental energy do I want to put in it. We're manifesting all the time. Like just as sure as we breathe, we're manifesting all the time for better and for worse. So it's good to be a good steward of your thoughts and like really start with your self-concept and like build yourself up, which is easier said than done because especially if you struggle with, anxiety and depression, it's complicated. It's hard.
On a healthy level, I think you also have to recognize at the end of the day that everybody has free will. And that's the thing. Is like this can very easily teeter into like a control mechanism where you're trying to like control outcomes, control other people. And it's like, here's the thing. Like, do you really want somebody to be with you who like didn't actually on their soul level wanted to be with you? Like that's the whole argument about like love and will.
I think good partnership is when, especially as creatives, like both people coming in at their full capacity and making space like big enough for each other, and both people believing that they deserve space and cultivating something where it's like we both can exist here entirely in the magnitude of all of our best attributes and all of our worst, and there's enough room. I know in creative relationships, room is especially complicated. I see this a lot, and especially in people who haven't read The Artist's Way, the notion of room. And when I was a younger creative, I felt that way too. Like I found myself shrinking in my creative capacity, and I thought like the male creative that I was dating was like bigger than me, so I had to shrink in that way.
Yeah.
But now that I've like mastered being fully open in my creativity and dating, I just have to figure out how to be fully open in my needs. Because I think for me, I'm like, I just won't need, and then we will have no issues, which is so unhealthy because it creates all this way for like passive aggression and things like that, which I like to think I'm an effective communicator, but like I would have to ask some of my partners. They would probably say no. Like I definitely end up feeling like I can always tell I've self-negated in relationships when I have physical pain in my body. And I would be lying if I said most relationships that I'm in aren't physically painful for me. Like I'm walking around with a lot of tension and like feeling my chest is tight. And most of the time it's just because I didn't feel like I could ask for space because of like what you said. Like if I'm with somebody who is that like confident bigness, I'm drawn to them because of that reason. Like if they are more arrogant or they're more whatever, it's really hard to be like, I exist.
Yeah.
This is just an aside. If you're like a male father specifically, and you want us to do a series on this podcast where you just build women up, we will host you. Build women up who don't have dads who build them up.
I honestly think we should interview.
We'll call it the Dad Cast.
Bruce told me he's writing a book about synchronicity after he listened to our last podcast, so we should have Bruce be our first interview. Honestly, I think he'd do it.
I would love it.
And his accent,
his
accent would be so soothing. And speaking of soothing voices,
I get so excited because it's the one surprise that I don't already know because I write the outlines.
Yeah, it's so funny. I'm pulling from Philadelphia again today.
Can you do it in a Philly accent?
John, all I know is there's like John Wood. Like I don't know how to do a Philly accent at all. I just live here. I don't make the rules. But I pulled up two, but I think I'm gonna go with this one. Yeah. Oh, it just fits so good. So let's just take a deep breath. Tell that little baby doll to take a deep breath too. Get the baby out for this one.
What are we naming it?
Oh, it looks like a
Peggy.
Spencer. Spencer Pratt.
Spencer Pratt. Okay.
Oh no, I hate that you're holding it like that.
This is my maternal vibe.
Okay. Here we go. This Misconnections ASMR is brought to you from Philadelphia, by Philadelphia. And it's titled Good Night, but 2 words, good night. Here we go. Good night. We have known each other since before the concept of time was even thought of. We will know each other until time is an outdated notion. Yes, I still read these. The end.
I I think I literally just wrote a letter like that.
I was
In
going
my
to say, I think that you planted this in Craigslist for me.
I think I did. I still maintain this baby smells like it belongs. Just
Yeah, obviously it belongs to somebody.
this house
Scary.
this house smells familiar. I'm not kidding.
I don't like this.
I have a really great sense of smell, actually.
You're like
I
a
swear to
German
God.
Shepherd.
I don't know. I've been in this house though.
I have a hunch that I don't actually think that's a stalker thing. I think it would have been, I think that feels like a counterfeit to me. And I think there's just somebody who watches our podcast who knows where you live who decided to play a prank but didn't know which house you lived in somehow, I guess. That's what we're going to go with so you can sleep.
Considerate.
Who are you thinking?
Whoever sent the baby, if it was sent with kindness.
That clearly is not a considerate gift.
I'm working on my boundary issues.
Stop thanking people for being creeps. No, thank you for the evil baby. Dumpster fire baby.
Dumpster baby.
Yeah.
Should dumpster baby always be on the podcast? I could set it like a little bit out of scope. Dumpster baby.
Oh my God.
That's good.
Well, is there anything else you wanted to share today?
No, I'm going to burn some Palo Santo to get the bad spirits out while you do the jingle.
Great, here it comes. All right.
No one puts baby in a corner.